Imagine, just for a moment, that everything you believe in has failed you. Imagine you have devoted your entire existence to a higher purpose. You have followed every rule. You have prayed every prayer. You have listened to the voice of God with an obedient heart. And in return, your world is set on fire. You are hunted by a queen who wants your head on a platter. You are forced to flee into the desert, starving and alone. And when you finally find a new home, a new love, and a new life, war arrives to burn it all to the ground. Most of us, in that moment, would give up. Most of us would look up at the sky and ask, "Why have you forsaken me?" But this story isn't about giving up. It is about the moment when a man decides that if God writes his destiny, then he has the right to grab the pen and rewrite the ending. This is a story of Elijah, but not the holy figure you read about in dry religious texts. This is a story of a man who stood on the fifth mountain, looked at the ruins of his life, and dared to challenge the heavens. This is Paulo Coelho's masterpiece, The Fifth Mountain. And if you are going through a storm right now, if you feel like your life is crumbling, you need to hear this. Music swell, cinematic, tribal drums mixed with Middle Eastern strings. Title card appears. Narrator, welcome back. Today, we are dissecting one of the most powerful narratives on resilience ever written. While Paulo Coelho is best known for The Alchemist, many argue that The Fifth Mountain is his most mature, realistic, and gritty work. Why? Because The Alchemist is about finding your treasure. The Fifth Mountain is about what happens when you lose your treasure and you have to keep living. The setting is the 9th century BC. We are in Israel, a land torn apart by spiritual conflict. The main character is Elijah, a young prophet. He isn't a warrior yet. He's just a man who hears voices, angels guiding him. But the political climate is deadly. King Ahab has married Jezebel, a Phoenician princess of Tyre. Jezebel is one of the most formidable villains in literature and history. She brings her gods, Baal and the others, to Israel and demands that the old prophets of Yahweh be executed. Elijah is terrified. He isn't a hero. He runs. Coelho brilliantly paints the picture of a man who is paralyzed by the unavoidable. This is a key concept in the book. The unavoidable is a tragedy that strikes without warning. The cancer diagnosis, the layoff, the breakup, the war. Elijah flees to the desert, guided by an angel, waiting for God to strike Jezebel down with lightning. But God does nothing. Instead, the angel tells Elijah to go to Zarephath, Akbar, a city in Phoenicia, the very homeland of his enemy, Jezebel. Think about the irony here. To be safe, he must go into the belly of the beast. This is the first lesson of the mountain. Sometimes your salvation lies in the place you fear the most. Elijah arrives in Akbar. He is a foreigner, an enemy of a state religion, and he is starving. He meets a widow. Now, in the biblical text, this is a miracle story. In Coelho's version, it is a love story and a lesson in humanity. The widow is beautiful, strong, but crushed by her own society's expectations. She has a son. She takes Elijah in, not because she believes in his God, but because of the ancient law of hospitality. Here, Coelho slows the pace. He wants us to feel the passage of time. Elijah isn't saving the world yet. He's doing something harder. He is waiting. How many of you are in a waiting season? You know you have potential. You know you have a destiny, but right now, you're just washing dishes, doing paperwork, feeling stuck. Elijah lives in the attic. He watches the city of Akbar. He begins to fall in love with the widow. This complicates everything. A prophet shouldn't be distracted by romantic love, right? Wrong. Coelho argues that love is not a distraction from the divine path. It is the fuel for it. But tragedy strikes again. The widow's son dies. The town turns on Elijah. "You brought the wrath of the gods upon us," they scream. This is a low point. Elijah, desperate, grabs a boy's body. He locks himself in his room. And for the first time, he doesn't just pray, he demands. He uses what Coelho calls instruction of the warrior. He concentrates all his energy, his anger, his love, and pours it into the boy. He brings him back. It's a miracle, yes, but the psychological shift is more important. Elijah realizes that he isn't just a vessel for God's will. He is a partner in creation. He has agency. However, The peace in Akbar is an illusion. While Elijah falls in love and teaches the boy, the armies of Assyria are marching toward the city. This is the most brutal part of the book. We spend half the novel learning to love the city of Akbar. We love its people, its streets, the view of the fifth mountain that looms over it. The high priest of Akbar claims the city is safe because the gods dwell on the fifth mountain. They will protect us. Elijah warns them, prepare for war. But they don't listen. They rely on superstition rather than action. The Assyrians arrive, and they do not negotiate. The description of the siege is harrowing. The walls are breached. The soldiers pour in, and in the chaos, the unthinkable happens. The widow, the woman Elijah loves, the reason he has found peace, is killed in the rubble. Let that sink in. He fled Israel to stay alive. He came to Akbar. He found love, and now she is dead. The city is destroyed. The boy is an orphan. Elijah stands amidst the ruins. The high priest is dead. The governor is dead. The gods of the fifth mountain did absolutely nothing. This brings us to the philosophical core of the book, the concept of the agony of the soul. Elijah looks at the sky. He has followed every command, and his reward is ashes. In most religious stories, this is where the character accepts God's mysterious ways and bows his head. Paulo writes a different reaction. Elijah gets angry. Furiously, righteously angry. He decides that God has managed the universe poorly. This is a shocking moment for a prophet. He tells God, you have done your work. You destroyed. Now I will do mine. I will rebuild. Elijah takes the widow's son. They are among the few survivors. The boy is traumatized, wanting to die. Elijah is broken, but fueled by a cold, hard determination. He looks at the fifth mountain, the place where the gods were supposed to live. He decides to climb it, not to worship, but to confront. There's a powerful scene where Elijah speaks to the angel. The angel tries to give him the usual spiritual platitudes. Elijah rejects them. He says that he will rebuild Akbar, not for God, but to prove that humanity can rise above the cruelty of fate. He tells the boy, we will write the rest of our lives. They go back down to the ruined city. Elijah, the foreigner, becomes a leader, not because he was elected, but because he is the only one working. He starts moving stones. He starts rebuilding walls. Slowly, the other survivors come out of hiding. They see this old man and the boy working. They join in. He becomes the governor of the ruins. He teaches the boy, who is now named the new leader of the city, how to read, how to write, and how to govern. This section of the book is a masterclass in Stoicism. It's about doing the work when there is no hope. It implies that the act of rebuilding is, in itself, a prayer. Paulo writes, there are moments when tribulations occur in our lives and we cannot avoid them, but they are there for a reason. What is the reason? To clear the ground, to burn down the old structures, so something stronger can be built. Elijah realizes that the old Elijah, the fearful man who ran from Jezebel, had to die in the fire of Akbar, so the new Elijah, the warrior of the spirit, could be born. After Akbar is stabilized and the boy is ready to lead, Elijah knows his time there is done. He still has unfinished business. He has a destiny back in Israel. He has to face Jezebel. But he goes back differently. He doesn't go back trembling. He goes back with the strength of the fifth mountain in his veins. He understands now that God didn't want a puppet. God wanted a man who could wrestle with him. In the Bible, the story ends with Elijah calling down fire from heaven and defeating the prophets of Baal. Paulo includes this, but he frames it differently. The miracle isn't just a fire. The miracle is Elijah's acceptance of his role. He realizes that tragedy is not a punishment. It is a challenge. Before he leaves, he reflects on the widow. He realizes that love does not die with the body. Her love was a catalyst that transformed him from a refugee into a leader. The core takeaways for us today: the unavoidable. You cannot control the tragedies that befall you. The Assyrians will come. The fire will burn. Acceptance of the unavoidable is the first step to freedom. Rebellion is a form of faith. Questioning your path, or even being angry at the universe/God, is part of the spiritual maturity process. Blind obedience is for children. Wrestling with destiny is for adults. Rebuilding is the answer. When your life is destroyed, you don't wait for a miracle to fix it. You are the miracle. You pick up a stone. You lay it down. You pick up another. Narrator, why should you read The Fifth Mountain today? Because we live in a world of uncertainty. We feel like small figures standing before giant mountains of economic trouble, personal loss, and global chaos. Paulo Coelho tells us through Elijah that we have a choice. We can be the victim of the narrative, crushed by the falling rocks. Or we can climb the mountain. We can look at the destruction of our Akbar, our plans, our dreams, and instead of crying over the ashes, we can say, now, I will build something better. Elijah's victory wasn't that he defeated Jezebel. His victory was that he defeated the fear within himself. He learned that he could lose everything and still be whole. So, I leave you with this question. What is your fifth mountain? What is the tragedy you are staring at right now? And are you waiting for someone to save you? Or are you ready to pick up the first stone and rebuild? If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit the like button. It helps the channel fight its own algorithms. Subscribe for more literary analysis. And tell me in the comments, have you ever had to rebuild your life from zero? Until next time, keep climbing.